that I received from Alex is that the court reviewed that electronically, made a determination, and sent a response back to you, Amber, about the case. And that they're going to then take time and more detailed write out an official opinion.
They refused to hear it.
They refused to hear the case.
Right.
So
to have a hearing. But they reviewed the initial merits of what was sent.
So they heard it or they didn't? Because I don't understand how you can do both. And I've been trying to struggle with that since I got the email back that said they weren't hearing it, but they responded. So what does that mean?
If they heard it, they would have called us before then.
To have a hearing.
They didn't look at any of our evidence. All they did was took an email and that's
They
all.
took the court case.
They didn't look at any of our evidence.
So just so we're factual about information, the court, Amber submitted a court case. The court reviewed the specifics of that case. All right, let's make sure they reviewed the specifics of that case. They didn't call to have a hearing. They made a determination from what was submitted in the case not to have a full hearing. Is that right or wrong?
I think that's right, but I think the contention was that they have to hear any case involving the election. They chose not to. So yes, they did read it, but they didn't hear it.
They do. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution.
6.4.3.
Then they broke it there, and that's fine.
Is it? And it may be the court's and the court interpretation may be: is it to hear it in terms of reviewing it, or to hear it in terms of having a formal hearing? So I don't know what that is, but I just want to. Yeah.
Well, I can't think of that. A hearing involves having people coming and presenting evidence before the court. But considering the case is just reading it and saying yes or no.
Well,
And
it depends on what how they interpret that in the past. I don't know because
not really that part's pretty late.
Yeah.
I would also like to point out, I was in constant communication with Alex during that time. I made myself available by phone, email, text, Facebook. Any way he wanted to communicate with me, I updated him on things we were doing, our intentions, our actions. I offered to mediate with him, to talk to him about it, because I thought that would be the more mature and adult solution to all of this. The court chose not to hear the case. Okay. All right.
So that just gives, I think, everybody a little bit more information about that interaction, so everybody in the Senate can be informed. If you all pass something tonight related to going forward, okay, this wasn't right, you're going to go forward with a different process. If you all say we're going to wait for the court to draft something and then come back to the Senate to pass something and establish, and I asked that question earlier about is this a runoff or is this an election, you're going to have enough time to do both the election between the three candidates and the runoff. So you're going to have enough time to the Supreme Court pass that and still have, so whatever you do tonight, you've got to be able to allow enough time for that to happen if you're saying that process should go forward in that way and we shouldn't take this results as it is now with what the standing would be, which is we're currently in a runoff between two candidates. Okay, so you need to factor that in. And the thing that I've heard over and over, and I know there's interpretations about the court and are they doing the job, and there's the question about the timeline, and it doesn't say the specific runoff dates, although it says the announcement of the runoff dates being March 11th, which somebody might presume then. I don't know why that got deleted. I know why, Kravis, to answer your question you asked earlier, I know why it got moved back, because one of the previous Supreme Courts or Senates or somebody they discussed about when you come back after spring break, kind of people's attentions have drifted off and they thought that they would get a better turnout on the runoffs if they did it before. So I know that was part of the rationale on why they moved it up earlier. And I know they've moved the elections up more so to have more time to transition, just in general is why.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
Why is this logic, it's embedded in your question, and your point, your observation of that let's do it now and we'll have voter turnout high right now? Like, what if we're in charge of the election rules, why can't we tell the court to advertise for the runoff election, wherever it was, and presumably have more people turn out?
You can.
Yeah,
I'm saying either way you go, regardless, you got to allow for enough time. If you stay how it is now, then time isn't an issue. If you do something in the future, the time, because you don't want to get to the end of the semester and not. I mean, you could do that. Northern Kentucky did that last year. They didn't have an SGA president going into the year. And I just tell you, as a student advocate, that's not in the best interest of students because you don't have a voice really in place at the table. And a lot of things happen during the summer and other times. It's better for students to make, so whatever you're going to go forward to do, you need to make sure that you have enough time to allow that election to happen. The one thing that I've heard everybody, I think, consistently say is that you don't want a student not to be able to vote. I mean, nobody would want that. You would want every student at the university. And I think everybody would agree with that. You want every student to reasonably have a chance to vote. The one idea that came up today that's kind of a new idea that the court didn't consider, which is still an option, is if that's the seminal issue, if that's the